The year was around 2004, perhaps a couple years earlier or a couple years later. I can't remember exactly. But I was working at a New Age metaphysical store on the weekends, teaching Reiki. And at this store, they have all kinds of readers, from mediums to tarot card readers to palm readers, clairvoyant people. And I had been collecting tarot card decks for many, many years. They were like miniature little paintings to me. And it was so exciting to use the money that I've made to purchase a deck each week when I would get paid for my Reiki sessions or Reiki classes. I had not been reading tarot yet at this point in time, only buying and collecting and enjoying the beauty of it. However, I had a very deep desire to be able to read the tarot, but each deck that I bought, I couldn't connect with them. I did not connect with the Rider-Waite deck, and I couldn't connect with any other deck until one day I was at the local Borders bookstore, which is now has gone out of business. And I saw through the little glass case this deck, the Medieval Tarot, and it called out to me. And even though I've never looked at any of the cards, which is a habit that I usually do before I purchase the deck, because I don't want to be disappointed when I open the deck and see cards that I may not like. But something about this deck called out to me in the glass case. So I had the employee of the store open the case and take it out, and I bought it. Finally, there is a deck that I connect with instantaneously. It's as if I've used this deck before. It spoke to me. It spoke to my soul. I guess you can call it my soul deck. I didn't have to read the little booklet that came with it. I didn't have to study it. I started reading from it instantaneously. And it was so easy for me to read from it. And the owner of the New Age store asked me if I wanted to start reading at that store professionally, in addition to doing my Reiki session and my Reiki classes. Of course, I said yes. When I started, I was very nervous. Will I be accurate? Should I be getting paid for doing this? And I had the customers not tell me their question. I had them shuffle the cards and ask the cards silently their question, and then tell me their question at the end if they so choose. And I proceeded to do the readings without knowing what the questions were. And the feedback, lo and behold, surprisingly to me, was accurate. And because I didn't ask them any information or their question at the beginning of the session, and when I hit it on point, they were convinced and they were surprised. And I had many repeated customers because they realized that I wasn't using psychology. I wasn't getting information from them. I read them without them saying a word. And it was validation to them when I was accurate. So I had many good feedbacks and reviews and repeat customers and testimonial. So this deck was the start of my tarot reading professionally. It is a deck that I've used for many years. It is a deck that I rely on. Even now, when I read from other decks and I need clarification, I use this deck as a clarifying deck for me because I trust this deck. I know this deck backwards and forward. This deck speaks to me, speaks to my soul. I love this deck. I own 3 copies of this deck. I will always have this deck, and I will always trust this deck because this is the deck that I've used to read for hundreds and hundreds of clients. This deck has never let me down. And when I use this deck, I don't go by the traditional tarot card meaning. I never have. I just look at the picture and it speaks to me. And even though it's the same card, depending on the situation and the person, the meaning of the deck could change. So for example, this card right here traditionally is the Emperor. But this card to me is weighing the pros and cons. In the one hand he has the orb, in the other hand he has the sword. To me it represents feminine and masculine, male and female. So he's weighing his pros and cons. For example, this card is the 7 of Cups. The way I read this card is this person is painting, manifesting their life. The canvas is their life, and he's painting a picture on the canvas, creating, painting, manifesting his future life. This card is the 7 of Swords. To me, this card tells me stepping back, looking at the big picture, looking at the whole. This card is the 10 of Swords. This is mental stress, being taunted by the demons of the mind, almost like a nervous breakdown, extremely stressed. This, traditionally, 8 of Cups, I read it as being stubborn, something not budging, not moving. It's so easy to read these cards to me. And I was so elated when I got this and I could read so easily and effortlessly. This card, 10 of Wands, to me, you're getting an inspirational spark from the divine, from the higher power, and then creating and manifesting something into the physical world of beauty. This traditionally is the Devil card, being stuck or bondage. To me, I read, because of all these flames, I read this card as suppressed anger. Someone who is suppressing their anger, full of anger and rage. This card, 5 of Wands, I read it as feeling overwhelmed. This usually represents the customer, the querent, and they're overwhelmed. This situation is massive, overflowing, so big, gigantic like the ocean. But yet, they have help, and on the shoulder of this giant is just a couple steps. So they have support and help, and they can overcome this gigantic, big, overwhelming thing or situation. This card, for example, is the 9 of Pentacles, or 9 of Coins. I read it as stockpiling, saving for a rainy day, saving for winter. 8 of Pentacles, court, legal matters. This is the Death card, but I see it because she's half noon. The skeleton, everything coming out in the open, everything coming out, the skeleton coming out of the closet. 1 of Cups, 2 people going out on a date, possibly. This is the Fool in this card, but I read it as woohoo. This is my woohoo card. Elated, jumping for joy, being happy. Another mental stress. Actually, this is the card I usually see of having like a nervous breakdown, almost having to be institutionalized. This card, Six of Wands, I read it as afraid to take the next step, afraid of falling. Five of Pentacles, I read this as entrusting the keys to someone of valuable things. Maybe even if it's a work situation, being entrusted with keys to valuable things, handing over the keys, or also in family, handing over the keys to like a family valuables inheritance. Page of Pentacles, surprise, unexpected money. The Hermit, I read this as the sand of time. Time is passing you by. The Sun card, two people having a positive discussion. The man perhaps making a proposition. And finally, the Seven of Wands, I read it as all the pieces coming together like a piece of the puzzle. So this is my deck. It's not the first deck I've ever purchased or the first deck I use, but it's the first deck that called to me. It's the first deck that allowed me to read, to fulfill my heart's desire to read professionally as a tarot card reader in a local New Age metaphysical store for years for clients. And I'm so happy with this deck. I can't go without it. And that is the story of my first tarot deck. And this is a video response to Simon from the Hermit's Cave. And it's my very first video response. I hope you enjoy hearing my story. Thank you so much for watching. Take care. God bless.